even if it's multiple choice. Although multiple choice is graded for right or wrong, I encourage you, if they're talking about circumference, that you know the formula for circumference. It's not on the reference sheet. You need to know what it is. And there are two of them. C equals 2 pi r, or C equals pi d. And you choose which one you want to use based on the information that they've given you in this picture. Did they give me the radius or did they give me the diameter? They gave me the radius, and I'm just going to go ahead and mark that with an R. I want to use the formula then that has the radius in it. So I'm going to take 2 times 3.14, the value of pi, times 18. And that part, yes, you do put it into a calculator, without any doubt. That's what you do. But if you're not writing that down somewhere, and you've made a mistake, how can you figure out where your mistake is made? You can't. That's why I've encouraged you from day one, show everything. The answer for this question then, therefore, should have been C, 113 meters. Okay? 0.0 something. Okay? I'm going to go through every single question. So why would I give credit to somebody for homework that I'm going to go over every question? Because all you'd have to do is copy what? Every question down and then turn it in. Would that be right for me to give you credit for that? That's why you're expected to have it when you come to class. Number 2, talking about the area of a circle. Here there is only one formula. Area equals pi r squared. And probably the biggest thing that I had to talk about yesterday is what it means to square something. Squaring something is different than multiplying it by 2. Squaring it means you're multiplying it by itself. Did they give me the radius? No. They actually gave me the diameter. And if the diameter is 27, then the radius is 27 divided by 2, or 13.5. So when I plug that into the formula, it's going to be 3.14 times 13.5 times 13.5, because this is what it means to be squared, not to multiply it by 2. And the correct answer for this one would have been C. Okay? If you didn't get C, do you see how to get C now? Everybody good? Question number 3. This is a compound shape. On the bottom, I have a parallelogram. What's the formula for the area of a parallelogram? A equals BH. On the top is a semicircle. The formula for a circle says A equals pi r squared. But if it's a semicircle, I have to divide that by 2 because it's only half of it. So in the parallelogram, my base is 7. My height is 6. 7 times 6 is 42. So the area of this piece on the bottom, in here, that's 42. They gave me this distance. How far is it from one edge of this circle all the way to the other? 7 centimeters. So they gave me the diameter was 7. But in order to figure the area, I don't need the diameter. What do I need? I need the radius, which is going to be 7 divided by 2, which is 3.5. So when I go to find the area of the piece that's on the top, the semicircle, I'm taking 3.14 times 3.5 times 3.5, and then I'm dividing the whole thing by 2. What am I going to do with these two areas when I get done with them? By the way, this comes up to what? 19.2. What do I get for my total area when I add those together? 42 and 19.2 when I add them together gives me 61.2. Everybody see how I did number 3? I separated out the two pieces, I worked out the two formulas, added them together. Number 4 is a review question. If something costs 40 cents per pound, 40 cents per pound is a unit rate, and they told me that I was getting 5.5 pounds. This is simply a multiplication problem. I'm taking 5.5 times 0.4. And so when I work this out, I find out that it's going to cost me $2.20 to buy that 5.5 pounds, which is why A is the correct answer. Questions for number 4? Number 5. They're asking for surface area. S equals PH plus 2B. Now, if it's a rectangular prism, it really doesn't matter what I identify as my height, because these two faces are parallel and congruent. These two faces are parallel and congruent. Or this two faces are parallel and congruent. It doesn't matter which I identify as my height. You have to pick one. I let the height be 5. I chose this number. If I chose height as being 5, when I separated out my base, the piece that I separated out was 12 by 6. This is where P and B come from. The perimeter of this base and the area of this base. If this is 6, the opposite side is also 6. If this is 12, the opposite side is also 12. To find the perimeter, we add up all the way around the outside. 6 and 6 is 12. 12 and 12 is 24. And another 12 is 36. The perimeter is 36 meters long. To find the area of a rectangle, we take length times width. 12 times 6, or 72. I have height, I have perimeter, I have the area of the base. All I have left to do is replace my variables in my formula. 36 times the height 5 plus 2 times 72. And this will come up to 324. So the correct answer was D. Are there questions on number 5? Number 6. The hardest part about number 6 you have to know the formula, and the hardest part, honestly, is making sure that you know what the height is. The height is the distance between the two parallel congruent faces, which means the triangle is the base, and that's the piece that I'm going to separate out. This was 12. This was 7. Could I find the surface area with the information they gave me on this figure? Why couldn't I? I'm missing 2 sides of the triangle, so I couldn't find the perimeter. But I can find the area of the base. How do we find the area of a triangle? 12 times 7 divided by 2. 42. And we'd take 42 times 18. So the correct answer for this one was 756 yards cubed. Do you know why you got 1,512? Because what didn't you do? You didn't divide that by 2. Everybody understand number 6? If you don't know the formulas, you're sunk. You just absolutely have to know the formulas. The work is easy. Am I good? Go on. Okay. This was probably the hardest problem that was on the front, but it doesn't have to be hard. It's important that we notice that both 7 and 8 are using the same figure. One they want me to find surface area, one they want me to find volume. The nice thing about having 2 problems put together is the fact that if I do the work for the surface area, all I got left to do is plug numbers in for the volume. So I don't have more work to do. It's the same question, same figure. Since I know what the formulas are, I want to identify what the height is in the picture. The height is 9. It's the distance between these 2 congruent parallel shapes. And we separate out that shape . Okay, if you do it as 3 little shapes and you try to do the surface area, you're going to have pieces to subtract out of your numbers. If you do it as one solid shape, although when I separate it to find some of the pieces, I am going to have to separate it out. Okay? But if I did it as a rectangular prism, a triangular prism, and a rectangular prism, I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4 different faces, 5 different faces I'd have to subtract out of my surface area. And that's hard to figure. So it's much easier to do it as a solid shape. Now, if I can find the perimeter and the area of this shape, which I can, then all I have left to do is plug numbers into my formula. We find the perimeter by going all the way around the outside and adding all those pieces together. And you're going to find out that the perimeter is 79. Okay? 25, 9, 9, 9, 18, and 9 adds up to 79. When I go to find the area of this, I'm going to add 3 pieces together. Where's the word? Okay. How do I find the area of this square? 9 times 9. So the area of the square is 81. How would I find the area of the rectangle that's on the bottom? 9 times what? 25. Length times width. The bottom is 225. How would I find the area of this triangle? Think about it. This is the base, so I've got to actually find out what that is. This is 25 minus 9, which is 16. And this is 9. So it's going to be 16 times 9 divided by 2. It's 72. What am I going to do with all 3 of these numbers then? I'm going to add them all together. I'm going to take the 81, the 225, and the 72 and add them together. And you get a total of 378. Surface area then is just a matter of plugging these numbers in. What do I put in place of P? 79. What do I put in place of H? 9. 2 times, what do I put in place of B? 378. So, when I work this one out, it comes up to this. 1,467. Okay. Now, number 8. By the way, bad book question. And here's why. Could anybody find the answer?
No.
Why?
Because it didn't give enough information.
No, we know the base. It's 378. We know the height. It's what? 9. Multiply the 2 together.
Wait, no.
3,402. Is the answer there? This was a bad question because why? Because the correct answer wasn't there. It doesn't mess up how you... Listen, here's the important thing to notice. It doesn't mess up how you should approach the problem. No. 3,402 is not any of these, is it? I think it's a little bit closer to D than it is all the others. But are any of these correct? No. Listen, even if there was a problem that was incorrect on the test, if you work this out and you've shown this as an answer, probably I'd throw the problem out, but anybody that had the right answer, I'd probably give extra credit to. It's just not that hard to figure out because you've already done the work for problem number 7. The hardest part was finding this part. And we already did that in the previous problem. I just probably would throw the problem away. And if anybody had the correct answer written there, I probably would give them extra credit. I try to make sure that I work out the problems on a test before I give them to you. But it doesn't mean that I always get that done. Okay. Number 9 was a review question. And I would say that number 9 really isn't correct. This should have this little symbol underneath it. But it's certainly the one that's closest to here, and I want to talk about why it is. If it's $25 per class, the 25 is the part that's being multiplied by X. I don't know how many classes, that's my variable. If I don't see it 25 being multiplied by X, I'm going to eliminate it as a possibility. Are they charging $125 every single time they go? Or are they charged that one time? This is what? No. This is the cost for supplies to take the class. This is how much you spend what? Per class. So you're taking 125 and you're adding 25x, or you could do it in the other order. 25x plus 125. How much money does the person have to spend? He's got $500, and he says he wants to spend no more than. And the reason I said it should have the equal sign, if it says no more than, my question is, could he spend 500? Yes, so it could be equal. So it really should say that he wants to spend less than or equal to 500, but certainly A was the better choice of what was there. None of the other would work at all. Everybody okay with number 9? I'm going to tell you, all the questions on the back really were a duplicate type question from the front, except they weren't multiple choice. But the process of how we work them out is exactly the same. Circumference. In this case, what did they give me? The radius of the diameter. They gave me the diameter. So I want to use this formula. Pi d. What do I replace pi with? 3.14. What do I replace d with? 52. And when I multiply that out, I get 163.3, and I should label it yards. On number 11, they want me to find the area of the circle. And they gave me what? The radius. 3.14 times 13 times 13. That's what it means to be squared. Multiply it by itself. 530.7. Again, I should put units there because it's area, it's feet squared. Everybody with me? Can I go on yet?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Number 12, I could do two different ways. I could treat it as a trapezoid. I could do it as one figure. I could do 1/2 h b1 plus b2. Or I could do it as a square, or actually a rectangle. It's not even a square. It's a rectangle and a triangle. Okay. Either way would work. I did the rectangle and triangle because that's the way I feel most of my students are more comfortable working it. So in the rectangle, I would have taken the length times the width, 6 times 5, which is 30. In the triangle, I would have done base times height. The base is 4. The height is 6. And I would have divided that by 2. This is 12. So to find the area of my whole thing, I'd take 30 plus 12, which is 42. Again, they're talking about area. It was in inches, so this should be inches squared. And we would have come out the same way had we used the trapezoid formula. Anybody okay with number 12? Am I good? Okay. 13 was also a review question. If a half a cup of milk has 4 grams, how much would 1 cup have? 8 grams. The reason I want to know how much 1 cup has is that gives me a unit rate. 8 grams in 1 cup, which means that I can multiply. I know that there's 8 grams in 1 cup, and they want to know how much there is in 2.25 cups. So I just multiply 8 times 2.25, and I find out that there are 18 grams in 2 1/4 cups. Yes, absolutely. And truth be told, I set it up this way. I said a half a cup was the same as 4 grams. So 2 1/4 cups would be how many grams? I set it up as a proportion. And I found that anytime they're dealing with units like this, that if you can compare cups to cups and grams to grams, that it's easy to solve. And instead of using 2 1/4, which I would use all the time, what did I change it to for everybody else? 2.25. But it certainly doesn't bother me to work with the fractional piece. And to solve this, we would have cross-multiplied and solved. Number 14, they're asking me for surface area. So I write down the formula. What do I identify next? The height. What is the height? The height is 30. This then is that base shape that I'm going to separate out. So I'm going to draw that triangle over here. This was 22. This was 13. This was 13. And inside of the triangle was 6.5. This is where P and B come from. Perimeter is all the way around the outside. In other words, the 13 plus 13 plus 22. So the perimeter of this triangle is 48. How do I find the area of a triangle? Base times height divided by 2. So I'm going to take 22 times 6.5, and I'm going to divide that by 2. And that base area comes up to 71.5. Again, once I have these numbers, everything is about plugging it back into the formula. Perimeter, 48, times height, 30, plus 2 times the base, 71.5. When I add this all together, 583 inches squared. Everybody okay on 14? Am I good yet? Anybody need me wait? John? 15. Kind of an odd way to look at a trapezoidal prism, but that's what this is. And they want me to find the volume. Volume equals base times height. What's the height of the prism? The height is 12. It is, in fact, the distance between this trapezoid and this trapezoid, which are my two congruent parallel faces. I separate out that trapezoid. In the trapezoid, they told me that this was 7.5, that this was 5, and that this distance was 6. How do I find the base area of a trapezoid? 1/2 h parentheses plus base 2. So I'm going to take half of 6, the height of the trapezoid, and my two bases, does it matter which order I write them down? No. 5 plus 7.5. What is half of 6? 5 plus 7.5 is 12.5. So my base area when I multiply this out is 37.5. When I go to find my volume then, 37.5 times 12, 450. And this wasn't centimeters because it's volume, it's centimeters what? Volume, centimeters cubed.
Mr. Huntley, please send Sydney to the front office for a few minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I go on? Okay. Notice 16 and 17 I have together again, because they told me that I was using the same figure for what? Both problems. Okay? On one of them, they want me to find surface area. On the other one, they want me to find volume. I have both formulas written. What am I going to identify in my shape? The height, which in this case is 19. Then I'm going to separate out that base shape. And there's actually two of them in here. They don't draw them in sometimes, but that's kind of what it looks like. These are the two congruent parallel faces. And I separate out that shape. They told me that this was 5, that this was 4. They said this was 3, that this was 5. If this was 5 on the top, how much is it down here? 5. If it was 4 over here, it's also 4 here. We get P and B from this shape. Perimeter, I go all the way around the outside again. I add 5 plus 5 plus 3 plus 5 plus 4. When I add all those pieces together, I get 22 for my perimeter. As far as the base shape goes, again, I could do it one of two ways. I could do it as a rectangle and a triangle, or I could do the whole base shape as a trapezoid. Either would work. I'm going to do the rectangle and the triangle and add the pieces together. Rectangle is 4 times 5, which is 20. The triangle is 3 times 4 divided by 2, which is 6. And if I add those together, I get 26. There's B, there's P, there's H. In both 16 and 17, I've done the hard work. All that's left is to put those numbers back in to the formula. P gets replaced with 22 times the height, 19, plus 2 times 26. When I work this out, it gives me 470. This is area. It was meters, so this is meters squared. When I go to do my volume, I replace the base with 26. I replace the height with 19. When I multiply this out, I get 494. This is volume, so instead of being meters, it's meters cubed. Can I go on? Okay. Last and final question. Again, very much like that first question, the last question on the front side. We had a 370-page book, and she's already read 20 pages. How many pages does that mean she has left to read? There's 350 pages left to read. Out of curiosity, can she read less than the 350 pages and finish the book? No. Could she read exactly 350 pages? Could she read at a rate fast enough that she'd finish it before the end of the 7 days? So it could be greater than. She has 7 days, and they want to know how many pages per day. That would be your inequality.
So we would have to put that answer, like divide it out.
It just said write what? Write an inequality. This is what? An inequality. I can tell you that x would have to be greater than or equal to what? 50. I had some people ask me, how can she read more than 50? It just means that it doesn't take her 7 days to finish the book. She finishes it quicker. What should you do tonight?
Study.